Hi there, my name is Craig Peterson. I'm senior pastor here at Woodland Hills Community Church, and we're thrilled to have you with us today for this conversation that matters. Our guest this episode is Chris Untiet, who is the Faith Relations Director for the local chapter of Habitat for Humanity here in Los Angeles. And we know that many of you are listening from other places, so we want you to know that while some of this might relate specifically to Los Angeles, that if you're listening from Kansas to Michigan to Florida, that there'll be things that you can take from today's conversation as well, so that you can get involved with the efforts at home too. So with that said, I want to ask the first of 6 questions for Chris today. In the past few years, homelessness has become a top concern for residents here in Los Angeles and really the state of California as a whole. But this is not a new problem or priority for Habitat, for they have been working on this problem for decades now. So Chris, could you begin today by telling us a little bit about how Habitat for Humanity got started?
Absolutely. And first, let me say thank you so much, Pastor Craig, for this opportunity today. Just really, really grateful. And to all those listening, thanks so much for tuning in. Yeah. Habitat for Humanity, just an incredible ministry, incredible organization. It probably has its initial roots back in the 1950s.
Wow.
Right? A farmer in rural Georgia named Clarence Jordan wanted to find a way to bring, every, race, every background together to help farm land. And he wanted to pay them equally. And just have a communal farming experience together and live life that way. And it was done as a testament of his Christian faith. And it was a little bit hard to do that process in South Georgia in the 50s. Caused some uprising here and there, but he stuck with it. And then in the 70s, a couple named Linda and Miller Fuller heard about this farming initiative and came down and started, to partner with Clarence. And then they had this idea that, maybe beyond farming, we could, come together to build homes as well. And so that's really how Habitat got started in Georgia. It quickly went international. The Fullers went over to Africa to see if they could start the program there as well. And it worked well. And then it spread across the South. And a little known former president named President Carter got connected with Habitat following his presidency. And so his first Carter build was in 1984. He's in his mid 90s now, and still I was with him in Indianapolis, in Indiana a few years ago, building Habitat homes. Not Indianapolis, it was a little north of there, but and so he's still going. But yeah, that that was kind of the lead up, and it's all been part of this overall vision that we can come together as communities, put our faith into action, to really build hope, to really help end the housing crisis, at a local level, wherever we're at, in the world. So in my case, here in Los Angeles, but now, 40 plus years after Habitat was started, to be, in all 50 states, to be in 70 countries across the globe now. I think it's just a testament to this idea that when we do plant seeds and want to help, in particular, families that, can't afford to have a decent home to live in, by investing in them, by saying, providing them, basically an interest-free mortgage. We based our financial principles kind of on the several principles found in the Bible. To be able to do all of that and give them keys with an amazing opportunity to really grow and develop and provide for their kids. It's just been an incredible initiative that, again, was started decades ago, and now today is one of the leading housing producers here in Los Angeles and all across the country and around the world.
So Chris, I know that when it comes to charitable commitments, that everyone has their own particular reason for getting involved. I know you're an employee of the organization, but I'm also curious for you as a person, what was it about the issues involved with affordable housing and homelessness and habitat in particular that really drew you into this movement?
Uh, Such a great question. Uh,
I'm sorry,
okay.
uh, so Chris, I know each of us has our own particular reason for getting involved with a cause like affordable housing or homelessness, etc. Now, I know you're an employee of the organization, but what I'm curious about is what was it about these particular issues that motivated you to step forward and make a commitment specifically to Habitat?
Great question. I grew up in Iowa, and when I was 6 or 7, my parents moved into this house that I couldn't believe we were moving into because it needed so much work. We had to basically rip everything out and renovate it. And so I think that was probably the very initial beginning of, oh, this construction, building of homes to make homes better, got started young. But 12 years ago, I remember sitting in my church back home in Iowa. And I just felt like I wanted to do more, to get up every day, to go out into the community and to help, people live out their faith by taking up some sort of, social justice call. And I had joined the AmeriCorps National Service Program, which is like the domestic Peace Corps, and turned down several positions. And then this faith relations, this idea of bringing different faith communities together to build homes position opened up out in LA. So I was so excited and grateful to be offered it. And I left the corn and moved out to the big city, and was planning on a year or two. But I just, fell in love with the mission, to see the families that we were serving, to see how all walks of life, all backgrounds could come together, to be able to travel around the world to build in places. I wanted to keep it going. I caught what we fondly refer to as habititis, and it's just been, an incredible journey over 12 years. I think with any sort of ministry or missions, it has its ups and downs, but like there's just been so many exciting, opportunities to, bring, churches and other faith partners, together, to get involved in various ways. And so, yeah, I think what started, renovating my own house when I was, 6 or 7 years old, and now to be able to help families, have a decent place to live, in my adult years, it's just been an amazing opportunity.
So Chris, when organizations and nonprofits reach out, it's easy to lead with talking about the statistics and the numbers. And don't get me wrong, statistics and numbers are important, but at the end of the day, it's really the people who are attached to those numbers that matter most. So I wondered if you would next like to share with us a story or two about a family that has been touched and had their lives changed forever by the work of Habitat for Humanity.
Absolutely. It's there's been so many, but how about I'll share a bit about the first family I was ever able to serve, and then maybe the most recent family that received a home as well. And in the middle, there's been hundreds that I just feel so grateful to have met them and helped them along their housing journey. But yeah, my very first project was down in Downey when I first arrived to LA, and I met Betty and her 3 kids who had just been informed that they'd been selected, which is always an amazing moment to let them know that, we feel they're the best fit for this home, and we'd love to partner to make it happen. Betty loves sharing how part of the habitat process is the families put in sweat equity hours to help to build their own home alongside the volunteers that are out. And so, but yeah, Betty shares how when we first started building her home, her two sons who are high functioning autistic, it didn't want to be close to the volunteers at all. They, very shy, just would move away. And but throughout the process of bringing various volunteer groups up, they started to connect more with them. Where by the end of the project, they were given tours, and it just really, she credits the Habitat build of really allowing, making them more confident and connecting better with others. And fast forward 12 years later, that they've been in their home, they still come out to speak on behalf at Habitat events and to volunteer from time to time. Her oldest son just re-upped for another term in the U.S. Navy, where he's a leader there. Her daughter went off to college and is doing great things there as well. And as Betty said, like she credits Habitat with making all this possible. She went from not knowing what she was going to do to provide for her kids, and when she needed to split them up because this was all happening during the Great Recession of 12 years ago. But because of the opportunity to own a home at an affordable price with the Habitat finance system that works incredibly well, has a less than 0.5% default rate. She's been able to thrive in her home, which has been great. So there's the first family. And then the second family I'd love to share about is the Aguilar family, who I had the chance to meet during the pandemic. It was especially fun to let families, it was a silver lining of just just all of the awful things that were happening over the last 18 months. But one of the amazing things was in November of last year, we hopped on Zoom, and it was a surprise Zoom where we thought that we let them know that we needed to do one more interview, and then filled them in that they'd actually been selected for the home. And so just to see the joy on their face was priceless. And after I got to know their story, I understood why. The Aguilar family was a mom and her either I think it was 4 kids, and they had lived in a small 1-bedroom apartment. And I think she said she had been in there for 30 years actually. They lost their dad passed away sadly, and they just didn't ever know if they'd be able to get out of there. But somehow they got connected to Habitat. Oftentimes it's through their their local congregation or faith partner, and they said, well, let's apply. So they did that, and they found out where the homes would be built. And so during the application process, they would go out there and just pray and just hey, if this is God's will, then it'll happen. And it's there's a lot of people that apply, but they stood out, and so it was just so wonderful to be able to build with them. Again, during such a difficult time during the pandemic, but then last Easter, to be able to hand over the keys to their family. There's a great video. I can send you the link of them entering their home for the first time. Just priceless, and you can just tell that their lives are forever changed, and that they're out of that very difficult housing situation where month to month they just never know what could happen, and then into a decent home that they own, that they can build equity up, and that they can thrive and grow as a family even more, and have space. Our homes are about 1,200 square feet and 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Here in the Los Angeles region, around the world, they're different sizes, but it's a life changer, and just glad that they were excited to be able to celebrate birthday parties with family and friends. I remember them sharing that at their house dedication. So there's things like that we think everybody deserves, and because of Habitat, we're able to make it happen.
And when you said Easter of last year, I know it must be an incredible thing to get a house at any time, but in the midst of a global pandemic, that's even more powerful. So thank you for those stories.
Yeah, you're so welcome. It was, like everybody, we had to readjust and figure out how we were going to keep going during the pandemic. But really grateful that our construction teams at least were able to keep building and repairing homes, and that we got several completed and even more started over the course of the last year and a half.
So Chris, I know that there are many different people and organizations out there who have different ideas about how it's best to address the challenge of homelessness and affordable housing, etc. Habitat, like we said earlier, has been doing this for decades and has found its own unique approach to meeting the challenge. An approach that seems to be working very well. I heard you say a moment ago that the default rate on the loans is less than 0.5%. So that's evidence that this is working. So I'm wondering if you could take a few moments and talk with us about that particular Habitat for Humanity approach and how it can help solve the problem in such a deep and profound way.
Absolutely. Habitat, we really want to be looked at as a leader at everything housing, and there's so many different phases of the housing crisis here in Los Angeles and around the country and world. And I would say our main contribution over the years, which continues to widen and grow, has to help low income families, meaning they're making 30 to 80% of the area median income, who are working but just are living in really run down studio apartments, small spaces, trying to raise their families. And so we feel we have a program to take them from a tough renting condition into an affordable home ownership opportunity. And how that works is they have to meet the income requirement, 30 to 80% area median income. They have to have decent credit. They have to be first-time home buyers. And they provide us with that information and some others in their application. And then our board of directors also reads a personal statement. We have a committee on the board that looks at all this and then makes the difficult decisions of who should get these homes. We have so many applications, but out of that, the families are selected. And then from there, after we tell them the good news, they put in their sweat equity hours, which we think to help them, they help build their own home or another habitat project that's going on, which we really feel is a key part of all of this. And then once they do move in, we have a dedication ceremony, hand over the keys there, and then they pay back a portion of the mortgage, but the difference is that it's never more than a third of their total income. Oftentimes families are spending over half of their income on their housing payments a month, millions and millions around the country that are doing that. And it gets really hard to ever be able to build and, to own your home, when you're doing that. And so by setting up, so it's never more than a third. And so basically they're paying a third of the overall cost of a home back, and the rest is held on what's called like a soft second mortgage that doesn't come due unless every now and then, it doesn't happen often, but the family maybe needs to move out of state or has another opportunity come up, but they're able to keep whatever equity they put in to use it for their next housing down payment. And yeah, that model, again, based off of kind of biblical principles of in essence, providing an interest-free mortgage for our families, has worked incredibly well, and has been at the heart of the Habitat program. Here in Los Angeles, unfortunately, the homeless crisis is just becoming worse and worse and worse. And so, especially over the last few years, Habitat has looked at ways that we can help and move help with whatever state of housing they're in. And so, as a developer, we're able to build just about any sort of project. And so I've started a lot of different conversations, many with churches, to say if they have a piece of land or a parking lot that they want to build some sort of tiny homes or other transitional housing, we may not have the capacity to, you know, we would need someone to help, the people that are, moving into those homes transition out of homelessness. First, we're focused on, our home ownership families in particular, but we can build anything, and that is certainly a way that we've been able to help, start the conversations of how we can help end the homelessness crisis here in Los Angeles. In addition to, I think our new home ownership in of itself helps to alleviate homelessness, and that it's taking families, out of a renting situation where maybe their next, rent increase they won't be able to afford, and unfortunately may end up on the streets. And so to get them out of that and into a habitat home that's a, very secure, affordable mortgage for 30 years helps to alleviate the helps to ensure that the homeless crisis doesn't expand further as well.
So Chris, there are a lot of people out there like myself who deeply respect Habitat and want to help out, but they tell themselves, well, I'm not a professional builder, or I don't have a skill set that would be helpful to Habitat to build a house. So, it's easy for me to settle for simply writing a check. And believe me, writing a check is important, but it seems as if there might be something magical that happens when people step outside of their comfort zone and actually arrive at the lot and pick up a hammer and enter into those relationships. Can you talk a little bit about what you would say to people who think that they don't have what it takes to be involved?
Absolutely. Another thing I love about Habitat is whatever skill level you're at. If you've never held a hammer before, or if you're a professional, we've got a place for you. And so what's great is we have trained construction staff and volunteer crew leaders that have a lot of experience in construction at all of our sites, working all the time. And so, non-skilled volunteers can come out, can work with them, when they're on site to help complete whatever task, that we're doing. There's some tasks that, we still leave to the professionals, laying the slabs of the foundations, the electrical and the plumbing work. But there's so, many things that, people with no experience, can help with, painting, teach you how to get those nails and to raise the walls, installing windows, helping put siding and insulation in, just, basically all aspects of building a home. And I totally agree. There is something about, getting your hands on, and getting and seeing the home being constructed, and to know that you can drive by 6 months, a year, 5 years from now and say like, oh yeah, there's that wall that I helped put up. There's something really beautiful about that.
I think the opportunity for, in some cases, for the volunteers to meet the families who will be the recipient of the home, or families who are working in another home, but
totally.
Again, the relationship between a local congregation or faith community and those who benefit from that ministry.
Absolutely. Connecting with the families and the community, the neighborhood, beyond building, new homes, we're often, we call it neighborhood revitalization. So if we're building, several new homes in an area, we're also seeing if, existing homes need home repairs, or if there's, nonprofits or, businesses, schools in the neighborhood that, we can help, build up, the community with. And so it really, getting out there, getting your hands on is so important.
And I think, for myself as a local pastor, I think that we sometimes fall a little short in our well-intended mission efforts if we think about mission as us helping them. Those us and them categories are so destructive. But I think our best mission work happens when both parties' lives are changed.
Oh my goodness. Couldn't agree more. And I try to lead an international habitat build once a year to one of the 70 countries. We call it the Global Village Program. Anybody interested in working with Habitat internationally can check that out for volunteer options. Great. But yeah, I always go into it, all right, I'm helping this family and have a better life, which happens, and they are forever grateful. But yeah, I get so much back. I was in Malawi in Southern Africa. It's been 7 years ago now, but I was just blown away at just, the joy and the happiness that the children in this village we were building and had, despite having zero material possessions. It was just, a really uplifting, experience. And so, yeah, I think being out there on the sites and connecting is so important. And the other thing I'll mention to Pastor Craig is, beyond the build site, there's a lot of other, ways that people can engage and volunteer with Habitat. We operate restores, which are like Home Depot thrift stores. We go and we have trucks driving around picking up furniture and appliances and other household items. Then we sell those items at really reduced prices that the funds raised help to go back to build more homes. We need volunteers in those stores to help them operate and to run year round. We do a lot of outreach to find the families that we build for that need home repairs, and so kind of the educational component, if you feel like you're skilled in how kind of the housing models work and want to reach out to families that you think might be in need of homes, that's a key area as well. You mentioned fundraising. Obviously all of this is made possible by generous donations from businesses and foundations, churches, individuals. Maybe you're a fundraiser and want to help raise support that way is another way to be involved too, or helping out with our organize our big special events throughout the year. We have an awesome day. I haven't done it during the pandemic, but we've done it virtually, called Power Women Power Tools, where hundreds of at least here in Los Angeles is power women come together to support Habitat for a couple of days, which is great. Being in Los Angeles as well, we have a great connection with the entertainment industry, and so we call it Hollywood for Habitat. Being able to rally entertainment industry leaders together as well is an amazing part of who we are too. So yes, definitely want you out to the build site, but there's a lot of other different ways to volunteer and help to further Habitat's mission too.
So Chris, there's a lot of ministries out there, and each of them take a particular approach that reflects their values or ways of being. Woodland Hills Community Church is a progressive Christian community, and one of the things that really drew us to Habitat for Humanity is its deep commitment to work across faith lines or faith traditions and really bring all of God's children together. And I know that while Habitat's origins were originally within Christian community, that you've been able to really continue to grow and expand those web of relationships. Could you end our time together today by talking a little bit about that and your own experience of that?
Absolutely. I think such an important question. And I love our Christian roots and, how we, are still, demonstrating the love of Jesus through our work, today. But yeah, I think it's been so important given our country and our world to ensure that we reach out to all faith traditions and offer them the opportunity to be involved. I think the beautiful thing about every, faith tradition, regardless of theological background, everyone has a tenet that you should connect with the poor, those that are most in need, help lift them up, which is exactly what we're doing through providing affordable and decent homes for them to live in. And so, a decade ago, I was fortunate enough to be selected to serve on Habitat International's Interfaith Initiative Task Force. And 2006, there'd been a kind of a booklet put together about how we should go about, engaging different, faith traditions. And it was a great booklet, but it was never really implemented. And so the task force was tasked with, engaging and connecting and advocating, with various faith traditions. And it was really amazing to see, what started to happen. We would rally together for a big, interfaith build day. around, in remembrance of 9/11 each year. We've done that, for several years. We started to do, different, gatherings, lunches where we, come together and discuss, how each of our amazing, faith backgrounds and traditions can come together around this idea of building homes. Educational conversations and just being open to anyone that wants to come out and help, I think is, as I said, is so important in today's world. I know for a fact, like in Northern Ireland, for instance, it was where Catholics and Protestants were unfortunately at war with each other for a number of years, for decades, even longer than that even. But they used Habitat in the 90s. They brought Catholics and Protestants together to help build homes. And even I know there's a couple Catholic churches and a Presbyterian church here in Los Angeles area that flew over to help in this process as well. And it really did help, like, them see, like, okay, we have our differences, but like we can build homes together. We can live together too. And so that sort of example, and is a big inspiration for me, because there's so many parts of the world, from the Middle East to other parts where religious conflict unfortunately has just caused so many divisions. If Habitat can be used, it's just a small part of bringing those great traditions, and they're each one is just such a diverse and rich faith tradition. If we can use Habitat to bring them together to help build peace and understanding, how beautiful is that? And so, yeah, I think it's been almost a decade since we really started implementing our interfaith initiatives across the country. We're seeing a lot of progress, but we want to keep engaging more synagogues, more mosques, more temples, and more churches. We want to get even more diversity in the congregation, the churches that are working with Habitat as well. So, but no, it's so important to do that, and to really bring different backgrounds together as a testament of our mission and who we are moving forward.
Thank you, Chris, for the time you've spent with us today.
Thank you, Pastor Craig. It's been such an honor, and I'll close too with, we are in particular excited with your church being in the San Fernando Valley in Los Angeles. Really want to make a big, even larger impact in the San Fernando Valley region in the years ahead. And so if there's ideas, land, people that need home repairs, many other things connected to some of the points we've talked today, we're just so excited to be able to work with Woodland Hills Community Church and see how we can serve together in ministry.
We look forward to building that relationship. And for all of you listening, wherever you are, whether you're here in Los Angeles or other parts of the world, I just want to reiterate in closing that the beauty of Habitat is not just in what they do, which is to build affordable housing for families in need, but as we heard throughout each of the answers, it's also in how they do it. And I think our ministry is most transformational when we pay attention to both the what and the how. So thank you, Chris. And I hope those at home will be motivated to jump online and look for Habitat for Humanity in your local community and find out any number of ways that you too can make a difference and get involved. Thanks for your time, and we'll see you with the next episode.